All right, everybody on this side, see this? And then that side, you got one right there. I'll post a link on the picture event too.
Okay.
All right. Cool. So we're going to get started. Thank you all for coming. This is the ACE and UFSEC iOS workshop. This is a part 1 of a 2-part series. We wanted to get you guys some mobile experience. UFSEC is also doing an Android series. The idea is to prepare you all for hackathons and other fun events like that require some background knowledge in areas like mobile and web. UFSEC has already done some web this semester, and I'm pretty sure they have some videos that they recorded about web development. So, I mean, if you're here, obviously you're excited and interested about iOS. We're going to be learning some stuff today. Just to give you guys a heads up, ACE has its 3rd Hacker U session on Thursday, November 5th, from 6:15 to 8:15 in the dungeon nearby. This is a repeat of the first 2 sessions. We just want to offer it to more students that did not get an opportunity to go the first time. It's a really exciting project. We have you all break it up into teams and then do something with optical character recognition and Raspberry Pis. It's really cool. It should be lots of fun. So if you haven't gone yet, please come out. You can check our Facebook group page to get more details. And then I wanted to announce something else. So we were contacted recently by a company called CodePath. They're coming to UF in the spring. They're going to be offering a free 12-week course on mobile app development. So if you're here, you're interested in iOS or Android potentially, this is a great opportunity. So check out our group, our ACE Facebook page. It's going to be it'll be on other pages as well, like ECM, UFSEC, WeC, Wixie. There'll be links to sign up to show your interest. So if we have enough interest, they're going to come here and offer this course. So it won't be available to like everybody, since it is this is a course that normally they charge like engineers in the industry like thousands of dollars to take, and they want to offer to students for free to get them hooked up with internships in Silicon Valley. So keep up to date with this. Check out our Facebook pages and please sign up. It should be a great opportunity for you guys. All right, at this time I'll pass it off to Nick and Sergio. They're going to start teaching you some iOS.
Real quick. So hey guys, I'm Sergio. I'm from Software Engineering Club, and I'm just going to be helping Nick facilitate with our iOS tutorial. So this is the first tutorial out of 2, and like Patrick was saying, Software Engineering Club, we also do a bunch of other tutorials like this before, and we've previously done a basic HTML and CSS tutorial and an AngularJS tutorial, which are all on our Facebook page and YouTube channel that are recorded. So if you guys haven't heard of us before, check us out on our Facebook page. Just Google like UF Software Engineering Club. Not Google, just like type it on search on Facebook, Software Engineering Club, and we'll come up and join the group and stuff and check us out.
Right. So I'm going to go through these slides kind of quick so we can actually get into the building of the app. So start off with why do we want to do mobile? And there is a highly increasing trend as everything goes to mobile. We can see that Android has lots of apps on it. So there are more and more apps every single day, more and more developers. Just a quick, so the most secure marketplaces are iOS and then Microsoft and Android. If you want to reach the most devices, it's Android, then iOS, then Windows. So yeah, let's keep going. Plus, it pays pretty well. You're looking at about 90,000 plus for the average mobile developer. With that said, John is doing Android right now. We're sorry that we couldn't put them on different days, but this is the best day that worked out. We're going to do the second part in 2 weeks. Those will be on different days. Both those are being recorded right now. So after this, I recommend watching over the Android tutorial. This is the iOS one though, so I have to give my shout out to my favorite. So let's talk about MVC. So the most common design pattern is the model view controller. I'm gonna hop over to this one.
Who's heard of this before? Who doesn't even know like what a design pattern is? I'm sure a decent amount don't.
Who here has not gone past programming 2?
Nice.
Okay, that's fine. Just wondering. So it'll be fun.
Basically, like a design pattern is just like a commonly used pattern of like your objects in your program. So you guys are all familiar with object-oriented programming. You'll create objects to represent like entities and stuff. So basically, you'll have like a model. Well, I guess we'll get into that right now, but
I'll do this one. This will be
Yeah.
easier to explain. So here's our comparison. We have our model, which is our data, or our code, and our controller kind of dictates what the view shows. The view is everything that you can actually see. So what happens is the view, if it recognizes anything, the controller updates the view, continues. The user does something, presses a button, right? Tells the controller, hey, this button was pressed. Controller goes to the model, which is our code, and it does that piece of code. The code goes back to the controller, hey, here's what should change in the view, and then we update the view. So this is continually running, and it will continually run the entire pattern. So we have our basic, the view will appear. It looks a lot more complicated than it is. It's
like,
just,
don't get overwhelmed by this image. Like you don't really need to
a lot of these,
understand this exactly, but
a lot of
it's just-
these you don't need. But we have our view will appear, so it's just like a built-in method, like is our view ready to go? And then did our view appear on the screen yet? And then is it ready to disappear? Did it disappear? So these things you can always override. So once our view is ready to appear, we can put buttons on it. We can put text boxes on it, anything like that. We can wait for it to appear, and once it does appear, we can put subviews. So we can have like animations and that sort of thing. So this is the basic kind of structure. So it loads the view. Once the view loaded, view appeared, disappear, which is all part of a typical. This is not typical. Or it's not strictly iOS. It's typical to all of mobile. It's just kind of how the basic cycle goes, life cycle. So these are some of the things that I personally have seen. Sergio and I were talking about this a lot. Things that would make a very bad app, reasons people would delete your app after they download it. So one, it requires permissions that it doesn't need. You open your app and Facebook comes up and it's like, hey, can we have all your Facebook information? Immediately the person's going to go, no, I'm going to delete the app. It's too cluttered. You don't know what to press, what to do, what actually is happening. It has advertisements all over, so it can tempt to get money too soon, too many pop-ups. And when you're designing your app, you shouldn't. The way it's built into Xcode is automatically puts the base iOS version to the current version of iOS, but majority of people won't update for weeks and weeks. So you want to think back at least one version of iOS to make sure that you can get the majority of people on your market. And then for the Facebook thing, I think around 65% of smartphones have Facebook on it. So if you require Facebook, you're missing out on 35%. So the good way to do that is to allow for a local profile inside your app. Some more. It does something other than the name implies. It's designed for one screen. So it won't work on the 6 Plus, it won't work on the 5, or it'll work, it just won't look right, and there will be buttons everywhere, you can actually touch anything. And the last one is security flaws, but Apple does a pretty good job about securing the data. So hop into what makes a good app. It's very simple, it's nicely laid out, it looks modern, doesn't look like a Windows 98 machine. It uses softer colors, so you think Yik Yak, all those, they're very light, soft colors, so it's nice on the eyes. Ultimately, it does what it says it does, so it has a very simple, here's what I'm going to do, you press this button, it actually does that. It doesn't take more memory than needed, it's efficient, it's fast, and it's very user-friendly. So a good thing to live by when you're making an app is code as if the person using your app has never held any piece of technology ever before in their life. I'm talking like grandma. You want grandma to be able to use your app without having to explain it to her. So this is kind of the basic path to getting good at mobile. Swift for iOS, Java for Android. And then UIKit, which we'll be doing today, we'll be doing Swift and UIKit. And then other frameworks, like so all your rest, your maps, your web, email, video, audio. And then, Sergio, we're kind of talking about this. These two, persistence and networking, are interchangeable. Depends if you want to go into something that has, it holds your app's data when you leave it, or versus, you want to connect to an API and pull stuff in. And then all the little extra goodies like notifications and that sort of thing. So UIKit, when you open your phone and you open an app, UIKit is pretty much everything you see. These are straight from Apple, so this is the most crucial framework that it provides. It is the main run loop. It handles all the events and everything. So all the buttons, everything is part of UIKit. So let's actually do this. So at the end of this, what do you want to do? You want to go over this one more time, go over our code, watch the Android workshop, go to the next iOS workshop, go to the next Android workshop. Udacity has really good resources for web, mobile, basic programming, all sorts of stuff. And then Ray Winderlock has great tutorials for iOS.
Also, one other thing, what I used to learn iOS was a website called Team Treehouse. They have like a lot of like really good video tutorials also. That's just personally what I use, and just another recommendation. There's a ton of different like websites that provide tutorials and stuff like that, like Udacity, and there's a bunch of different ones. But yeah, I use Team Treehouse, and I thought it was really good for me at least. But that's just me chiming in.
And then all the code and everything will be put out after this.
Yeah, I'll grab them. Do you know where they are?
Over here.
Far side.
Right.
Okay, so
Turn one on or leave them how it is? Okay. Okay.
let's start Xcode. So Xcode is our IDE for iOS development. It contains everything that can be used for C++, C, Objective-C, and Swift. Those are our main things. We can run things through the terminal. We can add existing frameworks to Xcode. So yeah. So let's create a new Xcode project. Let's click iOS application, and then we'll do a single view.
Who's following along?
Okay.
Cool.
Alright.
Like definitely, like if you get stuck, raise your hand, and like I can like walk around and help you guys too if you get stuck somewhere along the line.
Okay. So let's start a new single view application. Let's call it tip calculator. I'm calling mine tip calculator 2 because I already have one on here. Thing about core data is we don't need to click it, but if you wanted to use core data, which is like a built-in database to iOS, all you have to do is tap it. Apple makes it really easy. You can include unit tests, and it's up to you. What's up?
Here, just to like optimize the view so it's bigger for the projector. Here, let's go to. It is how it is.
They're good?
Let me see. It's still kind of small, but that was like the thing you were talking about. There's other options. You can just try the
Core data is like the built-in database, Apple's like official built-in database. So if you let's say you have a list of names and you keep adding names, and then you close out your app and you want to start over, like you open your app, it's not multitasking in the background and you actually just open it, then it pulls all that data that you have stored previously into that thing, so you don't have to so it just repopulates from what you already had. Okay. So let's set our devices to iPhone. What's up?
Let me try real quick.
Yeah, go for it. Good.
Yeah.
Um,
Just like Command Tab back into Xcode, or just click in Xcode or something. Yeah, there we go.
okay. So set our devices to iPhone. Let's hit next. Save it into wherever you want to save it. I just have stuff called Xcode stuff. Okay. Everybody see this? Yes, you can. So this is our project view. It shows our targets, which is the name of our application. We can set. Yeah. So we see our device are iPhone, iPad, Universal, and then we have our options: portrait, upside down, landscape, left, right. So let's just click off both of those so that it actually can only do portrait. That way, if the user rotates it, it still stays in portrait mode. That way, we don't have to worry about any of our layout changing.
Yeah, redesigning it for landscape.
Let's see what else I want to add in here.
Yeah, set it to iPhone and
iPhone,
uncheck. Only have device orientation set to portrait.
We have our deployment target 9.1 here, so we could drop it all the way down to 6.0 if we needed to. That way we can get more people involved. You also have to think though, the further you drop down, the less support, the less stuff that Apple gives you tools wise. And I think with Swift, Swift is optimized for 8, 7.
I mean, it came out with 7, right? But
7. Okay, yeah. Force touch. So let's go to storyboard. Storyboard is our. Let's get rid of this guy.
Which one did you use?
Yeah,
I just left it
storyboard.
9.1. Yeah, I just left it. It was just the default, so I just left it because it doesn't matter for this. So storyboard is our interactive way. Let's hit width and height any. Let's jump over to compact with regular height. So this is all iPhones in portrait. Right click, zoom out a little bit.
Did everyone get to the storyboard?
You got him.
What?
So he's just catching up. But yeah, so storyboard is our way to easily prototype things. You just right click on the white space and hit zoom to 50. You guys good? Everybody's good? Okay. So if we look at down here in the bottom right, these are all the objects we can do. We can add a label on our storyboard. We can add text. We can add buttons. And you see over here on the right side, it changes. We can see our attributes. We can see everything. So we can call it something other than we want. We can say the font size. We can do pretty much all of this stuff right here. Let's see. We can enable the keypad to pop up. We can change the actual frames and everything. If you want to delete one, you just tap on it, hit delete. So as far as that goes, I think I'm just going to take a second to kind of talk about UI view controllers. They are so this rectangle is what you see as your UI view controller. It is one page in our app. So if we want to connect multiple pages, you tap a button, it brings you to a new page. You have 2 UI view controllers. You would just, I think this is an empty one. Take this, drag it on the screen, and then we could hook it up by a segue. So let me just throw a button here. And then for Mac, just Control, click on it, and then drag it over. And then hit show. That's fine. And so when I run this, let's not run it on iPhone 6 Plus. This top left view, Right here you see 6S, 6 Plus. We see all of our options. Let's just run this for the 6. And then let it compile. It'll open up an emulator. Sergio? Okay. Am I moving quick?
Yeah, wait. Can you like go back and do that one last thing you did with the segue? And then
Yes. Yeah. Let me just click off, delete this. Okay. So button, control, hold control, click it, and hold the click, and then just drag over, and then hit action segue show.
But you have to drag on a new like
UI view.
control, right?
Yes.
I guess like start back from there.
Okay.
Just starting from like your single one view where you start off.
Yeah, so I started, okay. So UI view controllers are down in this area right here.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't have a similar view like that. If you don't have that, you can literally just type in a search box and just type in like view.
What is it? What do they have?
Yeah, and that's I think you control it. I don't know, it just like looks different. Yeah, there you go. Click on the third icon. You see how there's
Oh yeah, third icon over.
and this icon down here at the bottom. Yeah. Okay. And then, but yeah, what's here in this? And then just move over. So this is like raw. So basically, if your view doesn't look like this, make sure you're clicked on this third option right here. Show the object library. And then you can just like search for anything. So all we just did was get a view controller. So search view and if you go like this is a view controller. This just changes how this list of objects looks. So we want to drag out a new view controller is the next step. Anyone need help finding this like view controller and these components? What? Did everyone find like view controller here? Anyone not? I can come help you. Okay. Yeah, we'll restart with the button. Did you click here? Very good. Everybody else to the left hand side. Only that whole left hand. Yeah, all the way down. Yeah. Just like delete the stuff that you have on there. So right now you're trying to reset another. So a lot of people didn't set like their like width and height. I'm noticing. So click on this bottom here. You'll probably have like W any and H any, and click on here, and it'll come up with like this weird grid. So what you want is just the whole left column. That's for all iPhones in portrait. So make sure you have like this selected. Yes. I'll leave that up. Yeah. Yeah. So now.
So he's awesome and has Flux, but for presentation purposes.
Until sunrise.
Because people in the video are going to be like, why does this look like?
That's very true, dude. All my screen recordings probably have that too. Yeah. I guess just start off like from dragging the button on and then making another view controller.
Okay.
Max just turned off Flux, so it looks like brighter and better.
Oh, true.
Temporarily.
Okay.
I'll just send them to have that selected.
We good? Everybody's good? Okay. So let's take our UI view controller and let's drag it on here, which is just the first one. Zoom in so we can grab our button. We click on our button and control drag and just a simple show segue. So
Go ahead.
go ahead.
So basically, on the initial view that you started with, just drag a button from your components thing in the bottom right-hand corner, and then after that, drag a new view controller onto the storyboard. Then control and click on your button and drag to the other view controller, and you'll have a little option to pop up, and you'll click show.
Okay, so let me close out my. Let me stop running mouse in there. So now if I run this for our iPhone 6, we have this button, but we notice that our button's not in the right place as we put it on there. So now we have to introduce a thing called constraints. So I'm going to close this. Wait, well, I'm going to click it first. And we notice that it drags us to a new screen, but we can't get a way to get back. So in the next workshop, we're going to do root view controllers, so ways to navigate multiple pages in an app, and that whole sort of thing will be the next part. But for as constraints, so let's get rid of the segue. Let's get rid of this controller. In order for us to get our button to show up in the location we want to show up, it's the same kind of idea of control drag. So we control click and then we drag up in this diagonal sort of way, right? So we have our 4 options. We can trail space to the container margin. We can do vertical spacing to the top layout, center horizontal, and center vertically. So if I click center horizontal, that's what it looks like. So it's saying, hey, this button's always going to be in the center of our app. No matter what the page is, no matter what the size is, here's what it's going to be. So if we do this again, we can get, we can center it vertically in the container. So now our button's always going to be dead center in the app. So it's going to check where's the center, because it has a built-in way of knowing how big the screen is. Where's the center? And we're going to put our button into this thing. So you got to think, sometimes it could be kind of an issue when you have an image and your image is, let's say, larger for iPhone 6, and you make a constraint, you know, it always has to be this far from the left side and this far from the right side. It'll actually sometimes smush the image if you're on an iPhone 5, because it's saying this spacing has to be there, but our image is bigger than that, so we're actually kind of making our image distorted just so that we can put it in this exact spot. So let's run this. And it's dead center.
How do you resize the simulator? My simulator's pretty large.
If you're on the top left, does it say iPhone 6 Plus?
6S Plus.
Choose 6.
It's still
You just tap it. And then just choose 6. Tap the actual thing where it says iPhone 6 Plus. Is anybody else on 6 Plus still? Or anything like that? I'm on 6. Okay.
Have you seen, like, he's getting a message that says, like, launch screens cannot have segues, right? Yeah.
Launch screens cannot have a segue.
Yeah. When he tries to, like, drag a segue from the button to, like, the other view controller. Are they also having that same issue? Well, there's only one main, you're in main storyboard, right?
I thought 3. Yeah.
for, you got him, Pat? So yeah, show's just the basic way to move from one page to another. It just says, hey, get rid of, like, put this page over here, and then let's show our new one. A lot of people, when they first start iOS development, is they have a button to exit the page, and they actually have this button segue back to the original page. And what you're doing is you're taking one page and you're stacking a page on it, and then this one's taking that other page and stacking. So you just have this giant stack, and eventually you'll have a much slower application because you just keep putting pages on top of on others. So in the next one, we're going to do is actually define a method to exit, and then we'll just hook up a way to easily exit. But I want to start making the tip calculator as soon as everyone has everything up and running. An easy way to delete constraints is just click on it and hit delete. Save this button. Okay. So is everybody ready to go? Yeah. Okay. Where's all my text? Oh, just kidding. There it is. So yeah, so let's add a label to the top right here, and let's call it tip calculator. Good thing to do is always click on it afterwards, hit editor, and then size to fit content, just so it makes sure it's everything right. We can line it up in the middle. Let's take over here on the right side. Let's take our color and let's you can hit other. Let's see. Color is in our attributes pane, so fourth over, and then you should see color underneath text, and then the caption, and then color. Should be like a solid black bar, right? So we click color, and then we hit other, and then we can get to this page or this one, however you want to do it. Let's see. Let's click this guy. Let's go for a nice light blue like that. And then right underneath color, we have font. So we can click this arrow, make sure this guy's huge. And then same thing as before, editor, size to fit content. And then we have to add our constraints, right? So just control, drag up. We can just center it horizontally, and then we can do vertical spacing to the top, which means it's going to be center on the screen, and it's always going to be this far from the top of the screen. So let me just run this to make sure. And there it is. The font is, you click on the text, and then it's the fourth over. It's called the attributes inspector, and then it's the third one down is color. And then you just click that, and you hit other, and you can, yeah. Yeah, so click back over here. Let's add a text button, or a text box right underneath it. We can fill it. Let's fill it with a number for right now. 20. Text box is right next to, right underneath label.
You can also just like search for these things.
Yeah, there's at the bottom there's a little search
library
method.
Too.
Does everyone go with the text box? So we have this text box. We have to add our constraints. And then we can say it's this far from tip calculator always. Or we can say, hey, it's this far from the edge. Let's add a second text box right in line with it. And it has this nice thing. We have dotted lines, so we see that we actually are in perfect alignment with something else. If we wanted to go over here, we could match up next to it, or we can go underneath. We can match up with tip calculator. So I'm just going to go right underneath, and let's just say, let's fill this. You can either go to the right and click on the text spot, or you can just double click on the text box itself, and it'll allow you to type in. So let's just say 5. And we got to add our constraints. Let's do this one. Okay. So now we run it. We've got tip calculator and then 2 text box underneath it. Oh, the way you set up your constraints, probably.
That's when you're running the app, right?
Nothing showed up? Is there?
Stop that and like run it again.
Yeah. Same. This little guy right here. You just control and you drag it to the other text box, and it's saying, "Hey, I'm always going to have this vertical spacing between the 2 text boxes now." Is it good now? Okay. So now let's have a button, and we're gonna add one button on here, and we're gonna put it right by here, and we'll call that. What is my tip?
Would you mind like clicking on each like text
See what my
field
constraints are.
and show what the constraints are? Yeah. So if you click like on like a ruler icon, all the way on the right, like on your attributes thing.
I'm just gonna
Here,
show.
there's like a good way to view them. Go like.
Do you want to do it that way? Okay.
You need to click. Yeah. There we go. So yeah, these are the constraints you have. And just like show like how you get like the option to do those. Because a lot of people like miss the constraint stuff.
Okay. So the easiest, the easiest way to do it is just click on one of them. For the first text box, the best constraint is Control, click and hold, and then drag the tip calculator, and then let go. And it should say vertical spacing to, yeah, just vertical spacing. And so this gives you this guy. I can run through it and just run through it again.
Yeah. What's up constraints? Okay.
Okay. So if I control and I drag diagonally, I have center horizontally in the container, which means that it will be in the middle between the 2 sides. So I'm going to add that one. And then I'm going to control drag up the tip calculator, and then click vertical spacing. And then I'm going to click and drag to the right, and I'm going to add trailing space to container margin, which means that it's always going to be this far from the right side of the screen. So now its constraints are middle, this far from tip calculator, and this far from the right side of the screen.
Why do you want them to be aligned to the right side of the screen instead of just aligned in the middle?
It doesn't matter. However you want to set it up, yeah. And so for this text box, I'm going to drag it to here and make sure there's a vertical spacing between my two text boxes. And then I'm going to drag to the right and do a trailing space to this container margin. So same thing as before.
What was your constraints for the top
It has a horizontal constraint, and it has a constraint to the top margin, and a constraint to the first text box.
Can you set the constraints of coordinates
When you're doing it programmatically, you can set it relative to the screen size, which is the best way to do it. And you can set like an X and a Y. But the best way to do it is take the screen size, which is a built-in variable, and just say, hey, I want it to be this times 0.5, and then this right here. So if you're doing it programmatically, you don't need to add the constraints this way. But for quick prototyping, this way is best.
You set like certain spaces being left there on 6 versus a 5 differently. Aren't you setting it down in certain spaces?
Yes, I am.
Like that?
If I run it on a 5, here's what it looks like. You just have to be careful when you're doing it. This should look fine. But ultimately, when you have a spacing to the side that's normally greater than the size of the 5, then you'll start getting some weird distortion like that. So it's saying, hey, here's my left spot's always going to be right here, which is how it usually is. But it's saying the right spot is this way, so I'm actually going to smush it until it fits the constraints given to me. So you just have to be, just think about what your constraints are at all times. Yeah, it's the same thing he asked. If you're doing it programmatically, you can set an X and a Y. But you should do it based off, like you could say X equals 50, but it's kind of better to do like the size of the screen times 0.5. Yeah, something like that. That's the way when you're making a game, a lot of the way the games work is you set it based on like a random spot between the left side of the screen and right side of the screen, and then just have it drop and keep the same X. Yes. Okay, so constraints to this. I'll add to here. All right, okay. So let's move on. Is everybody good? Okay. If you look at this top right over here, there's these 2 circles. If you click that, actually let me click off of this guy real quick. If you click that, it pulls up a kind of dual view. You get your storyboard and you get your UI view controller. So it's this guy. It actually knows depending on what you set. So if I click here and I go over to, what's it called? But you can set the name. So if I wanted to rename it to something other than view controller, let's say I wanted to name it like
Tip view controller.
Yeah, tip view controller. Then all I have to do is click on the storyboard, change it to tip view controller, and then when I click it, the correct file should pop up. So let's talk about outlets. So outlets, if I click my button, which is what is my tip, onto my screen right here. So right above everything, we're going to make it a global variable. And I let go. I have the option of outlet, action, or outlet collection. So an outlet is a reference variable. It contains all sorts of things like enabled, visible, which are the 2 basic, and then that sort of thing. So we're going to say outlet. We'll call it...
It's basically just like linking a UI item to your code. So now we're going to be able to programmatically interact with this button, and we'll get like, whenever you click the button, you can do something in code. So this is like our variable representing the button is what he's creating.
So I just called it tip button, and it's type UI button. And then storage is weak. That's just the default. It says, hey, when it's not being used, don't worry about it too much. So it's just going to connect. So I have this weak variable called tip button, and it's of type UI button. And we see right here, if we go over to this little filled in circle, it shows us what we're connected to on our storyboard. Is everybody good? Interactive button outlet, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So other ways to do variables. So let's just. We don't actually define a type. You can. It's up to you. But generally, you can just say var, and then var. I don't know. Ace equals club. Can I make the font bigger? Control plus.
Does that
I do not.
Click on editor somewhere maybe. I'll look at my computer.
Code folding. Code structure.
I'll Google it real quick.
Yeah, he'll Google that real quick. But so we just say like var and then our variable name and then set it equal to something. So I just set it equal to a string club. And then you don't need a semicolon. So Swift is no semicolons at all. And then we notice that the two built-in methods that we have right now are overriding our view did load and our did receive memory warning. We don't really care about the memory warning right now. This is just if we exceed our memory, then here's what we should do, sort of thing. We're not planning on doing that. Go for it.
Okay.
So we can say the same declaration for all of them. Var this equals this works uniformly. We can put a question mark, which means it is right now it's wrapped, so we don't know what type it is. So if we didn't want to declare it, so let's say we wanted to say var ace with a question mark, it's saying, hey, we have this variable named ace, but we don't know what type it is yet. So when we assign a type to it, or let's say we fill it with a type, let's say we take the text box and we .text, and we take it in, that's actually a type string. And so what we have to do is we have to put an exclamation point, which means we're taking it and we're unwrapping it, and then we're seeing what we have. And so a good way to error check is, try this, and if we take our string and convert it to a double, and let's say we're trying to convert W to a double, it won't unwrap properly. It'll unwrap, it'll throw an error right away. And then that's kind of like our try catch. So it was a good way by Apple to allow for programmers to check their code.
Apparently it's kind of a pain to change the text size. Look at this pair. What? In Xcode? Really? Check that real quick.
Like for the text, so where you weren't trying to list the font size, there's that yeah.
So wait, so what does this do?
It just changes the font bigger.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
weird.
nice.
Oh, weird.
Smart.
Yeah, so let's go inside of our view did load, and let's also hook up our. Let's drag this. Thank you. Let's make two more outlets based on these two buttons. So outlet, which one is this? We'll say this is the tip %, and UI text field weak. Cannot insert an outlet connection. Could not find the information in the class name ace. Oh, true. I tried to add it to ace.
You guys don't sweat if we kind of lost you and you are not following along anymore. This is being recorded, and so you can just try to follow along again from the YouTube video, and then you can pause it whenever you get stuck and rewind it. It'll be much easier if you got stuck. versus like right now if you got stuck. So don't sweat this, like watch and pay attention and then go back over and with the video.
So now we have 3 reference variables, which are outlets to our storyboard. And inside of here, inside of our view did load, so once our view loads, we can change. Oops, let's run this real quick actually. We can say, let's see what's going on.
You deleted did receive memory warning.
Yeah, you don't have to delete it. It's just if it ever throws a memory warning, then that's how you handle it. But for right now, this shouldn't throw a memory warning. So if we see, like, before we do anything, if we click this, the button has a built-in like "Am I clicked?" And so when you click it, it like kind of grays it out for a second, and that says, hey, you know, this is clicked. And then these have built-in things that if I click it, it actually pulls up a full keyboard. Click this one, full keyboard, and then if you're on your phone, you have to swipe down to get rid of it. We don't want to allow the user to put a letter in or something like that. So if we click this, one of our text boxes, and then keyboard type, we can actually just put a number pad. Doing this one too. So click the text box, attributes, 4th one over, and then down in the middle you see capitalization, correction, spell checking, keyboard type. So we just click that, and then we go to number pad. Phone pad is, yeah, it should work.
But it would have like a pound.
I don't think it has the pound. Like how to do a decimal.
No, never mind.
So let's run it again. So now let's see what pops up when we do this. So now when I click it, this pops up instead of our original full keyboard. Good. Okay. So inside of our view did load, let's say we don't want to allow the user to access the tip text box for some reason, for any reason. So we can just say tip% dot enabled equals false. Oops. So yeah, you don't have to worry about that. It just says it's. Sometimes in the simulator it won't. So, but like, and when you actually plug it to your phone, it'll pop up.
So yeah, if somebody can like use a keyboard to type in.
Yeah, you can actually just use the built-in keyboard for the.
There's like a setting to like turn on like the simulator's like touchscreen keyboard, and where I probably have that up.
Yeah. So sometimes like yeah, if you swiped away for any reason, then it just won't come back until you like reset it back on. 10% dot enabled means if 10% is the name of this text box. I'm just showing that you can. If you say dot enabled equals false, what it does is when it runs, once the view loads, I can no longer click this. So let's say you have a field that you don't want the user to, like, you don't want it to be able, like, to be clicked until another field is filled out. So you can do this enabled. I could say dot visible. Visible. Hidden. Dot hidden equals true. So now when I run it, it goes first, it disables it, and then now it's gone. So if we want to wait until our first text box is filled out, then we can make our second text box visible. So I'm not going to worry about that right now. Let's do a basic, let's click our button, and let's drag our button right underneath our override function, but still inside of our class. And we'll make it an action. So an action is just a method. It's our way to say, hey, do this when the button's clicked. So tip clicked or something. And then any object, type UI button, touch up inside. So it's saying, hey, once this button's clicked, what do you want to do? Does anybody want to go over that again? How to get the method? UI button, yeah. And then touch up inside, which is default. Yeah. So now when we click this, let's say tip% dot enabled equals and then now it's disabled and I can't click it, and then now it's enabled again. So the math we're going to do is we are going to, let's see if I get my math right. Oh, you have your scroll backwards.
Dude, that's the right way.
So let's define two variables called what do I call it? Price number, and we'll set it equal to an empty string. And then what do I call that one? Tip number? Yeah. Right. And then inside of here, our method, we can say price number equals price. What's up? What did I call this? Yeah, price dot text, and then we have to add an exclamation point to unwrap it, make it explicit, and then what did I call it? Tip button. Tip. Pretty much right now it's sending an optional, like it's sending this variable, but we don't know what it is yet. So it is a string. We know it's a string, but the computer sends it as this unknown wrapped thing. And so by putting an exclamation point, we actually are saying, hey, let's unwrap it. Let's take what, like it's, right now it's kind of hidden inside this box. Yeah, so yeah, I got to take the box, unwrap it, and then now I have this value that I can
kind of
use.
like dereferencing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So tip number, or what did I call it? Tip percent. Yeah, tip percent. Dot text. So let's print both these out. And then I'll do a separate print. Right, so you got this. Yeah, you just type print, and it's saying it prints the, sorry, it prints the debugger or the
Console.
console. Yeah. So now when I hit, what is my tip? We'll notice down here we took our strings from the text box and we assigned them to a variable. So now what we can do is we can convert them over to type double, and then we can do the math we need. But yeah, so whenever you type print, you can just print it right to the console. That's what it does. Okay. Yeah, so the exclamation is the way to unwrap or make it explicit. So what it does is it takes this variable and it says, hey, I don't know what it is yet, so let's put an exclamation point, unwraps it, and now I know the type. And so I'm assigning that type, which it is a string, to a string. So the exclamation point is just a way to unwrap. So let's do if the price number is not equal to an empty string. Let's see, what other errors would we get? It has a similar as Java syntax as far as comparing things inside of an if statement. So C++ also, you can do Java when you're comparing two strings, you're supposed to do the dot equals. C++ allows you to do the just exclamation point equals. So it has kind of a Java way of dealing with strings, a C++ way of comparing them, if that makes sense. Tip number is not nothing. And the other error would be if our tip number was 0. We wouldn't be able to do that. So, right, yeah. So let's make a good way to put this on screen. Let's add a label onto our storyboard, right? And we will add our constraints. Same as before, horizontal, and then vertical to what is my tip. And then we want to drag this on to our variables right here. Let's make another outlet, and let's just call final. So now we have this text. We want to set final hidden. So we hide it right away so that no one sees it. And then inside of here, we can say, any point we can say final dot text equals, your tip is and then we'll add a $sign. And then whatever our math is that we're going to do. So for right now, let's just do this. And we have to remember to take our variable, so take our label, and then unhide it so we don't show it. And so we're assigning a new text value, and then now we're showing our label again. So you have to think, sometimes it looks weird when you have it shown and then right away you're changing. If it's like has to do a lot of changes, then it could you could actually see it change versus right here when it's nothing's there yet. We want to have it show anything, so we just do our math, assign it to our text, and then we show it to the screen. So run it. What's up? Oh, if price number is nothing, if tip number is not nothing. Yeah, it just wraps around because I'm in presentation mode. Yeah, because tip number is not 0. We don't want to do, because if you do a 0% tip, yeah, it just multiplies by 0. So now when I click this, our label appears. Your tip is this. Let's do the math. The math is, let's see. We want to cast this as type double. So the way you cast in Swift is you go to type and then just inside of parentheses you put whatever you want to cast to it. So if we want a integer as a string, we put string and then inside of parentheses 4. So take our price number and we have to make sure to unwrap it. And then we want to multiply this by another type double, and then tip number. Oops. And we'll divide that by 100. Something. Yeah. So the way the difference between a let and var are let's a constant, var is just any variable. So it'd probably be better instead of defining it as a constant and changing it. Let's just say this is answer, and then up here say var answer. Let's a way to do a constant. Like just a constant variable. Yeah. All right. So did everybody follow that? It's just the math involved. You take the price and you multiply it by the percent. So 20 times 5, and then you divide by 100. When does this go to? 7? And I'll have to. Okay. So far, is anything like unclear to anybody what I've done so far?
Like if you weren't able to keep up, just definitely go watch the video. It's a lot easier. You can just pause it if you get stuck and rewind and stuff. But yeah. Don't sweat like if you weren't able to keep up. Like this is a lot of new stuff if you've never done anything like this before. But yeah.
Yeah. So since this one's a 7, I feel like going into animations would be a lot.
Yeah, let's not.
So also the code for this entire thing is on our GitHub. and it is also will be posted somewhere.
Yeah, probably like in the Facebook event of the group.
Yeah. So that code it has some more updated stuff. It has a little animation. So the animation's what the next workshop's going to do. So next workshop's going to be animations and traversing different pages in the app.
Maybe you want to post this code too, though.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, because this code is like more bare bones, and like a lot of them have like parts of this code.
okay. So we'll post both of these. Actually, I'll go through and I'll just original. That way, when I update it, it'll be the same variables and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Anyone have any questions?
that's it for now.
Yeah, you have the simulator that you test on, but how do you actually export?
You
It's actually
take
really, really simple.
you take a. Where's my backpack? I'll show you. You take your charger. You hook it up to your phone.
So previously, before this summer, you needed to be a member of like the iOS developer program, which is like $99 a year, even just to simulate on your iOS device and to test on a real iOS device. But
Emulate.
this at the last WWDC conference, they made it that the only thing you need to pay this developer program for is to just get your app on the App Store. So now you can do everything. You can load your app on your actual iPhone for free, which is pretty cool.
So plug the phone in, and then up top here at the iPhone 6s, there's a spot that says right here, device, and that would just be your device. So you make do you have to make the account still? I think
You still need an account, but you don't need to pay
yeah.
for.
So you just have a free account. It'll have like all the certificate stuff you don't need to worry about, like when you click it, and then you just hit run, and then your iPhone's unlocked. And what it does is it makes all the certificates, profiles, and everything hooked up to your account, and then you'll just see it appear.
You'll actually have
on
like a
your
copy
phone.
of the app on your phone. So like even when you disconnect,
Alpha version.
pre-alpha. Even when you disconnect your phone, you'll have like
Yeah,
you
so
can,
you can keep
you can
running
like
it.
run the app, the version of the app you have on it.
If anybody wants to see like it actually on the phone, in the front right here, he has the somewhat final version. So if anyone wants to go check it out, he's got it on his phone already. But yeah, so it's really straightforward. Even when you export to the App Store, there's like I can post a link how to kind of do it, but you just go through a series of steps. Export certain areas, and then you just kind of upload them to iTunes. It does everything. Yeah. Any more questions?
Cool.
All right. So that's it for this workshop.